No.
Hello and welcome to the second half, part 2 of the For the Love of Sports NFL Draft Special. My name is Michael Rasile. I'm just here to argue and host this thing. My men, Derek and Justin, are here to give some sort of analysis. Derek, how you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. Can't complain. Only 9 days to the draft now. How about you?
9 days till you get to see us. I'm doing pretty great, buddy. I'm doing pretty great. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm great.
It's a good day to be alive. It's a beautiful Tuesday here. I've been checking the weather in Cleveland a lot too. It's a beautiful Tuesday in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, but we're supposed to get 4 inches of snow tomorrow, out of nowhere.
Are you serious?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no joke. Out of nowhere, we're supposed to get 4 inches of snow, and then it's gonna be like 60s all next week.
As long as it's 60s all next week, that's all I'm really worried about. Justin, check Twitter. It's probably on Twitter somewhere.
I got you.
Cool. So we are here as we did the first half, the first 16 picks of the NFL draft. We do this because we love it, and we kind of would do it anyway, but we thought, screw it. Turn that red light on. It's a little bit more fun so other people can get to learn. If you haven't already, make sure to go recap the first 16 picks. We had some fun ones in there. It has been a lot of fun so far. We're now going to do the second 16 picks. Justin has the odds. Derek has the evens. A couple of things since we last recorded. I think it was Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So the Giants have come out today. Dave Gettleman has his yearly press conference where he makes himself look like a douchebag. And he came out and said that they're strongly considering moving down, which he has never done in his career. So I won't believe it until I see it. Derek, would you rather Devonte Smith or move down in the draft, I guess?
Devonte Smith.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it before. It's all about, can we, get Daniel Jones enough weapons to prove that he's the guy going forward. So if Smith is there, I think he makes the most sense. I'm either kind of thinking him or Rashawn Slater. If neither of them are there, probably move down. I'd be okay with that. If you move down to 20, something like that, you're in the range with some of the pass rushers. Kind of starts to make sense for them to take. But, just with the way we expect everything to shake out in the top 10 with a bunch of quarterbacks going, I think the Giants are pretty much guaranteed to get someone who can really help them on offense at 11. So I wouldn't trade down.
Yeah, that is the goal there. I would prefer. If you're going to move down that far, if you move down to 20, you're getting a haul of picks, especially, right outside the top 10. You're going to get some stuff. That's probably a second round pick. If that, and probably something, something a little bit further down. So I would take it. We'll see though. I won't believe it till I see it. I think that's kind of just Gettleman talking out of his asshole. Justin, one other thing that we spoke about in our group chat was that the Dolphins, so we know the trade that they made, they went from 3 to 12, then traded up with the Eagles to 6. And now it's looking like they're considering moving back because I think they kind of fucked up. So tell me a little bit what happened there.
Yeah, so basically the reason they did all those trades was they found out that they thought that they could still get the pass catcher that they desired, either Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. So clearly those are 1A, 1B for them, and then maybe Devonte Smith, Jalen Water are a little bit further down for them. But they figured that by doing all these trades that they would be able to get one of those top two guys. But now that it sounds like the Bengals are leaning towards Jamar Chase and away from Penei Sewell, which is what the Dolphins originally thought was going to happen. And then obviously with Atlanta also taking Kyle Pitts, which it sounds like that's kind of where they're leading. The Dolphins kind of just messed that pick up big time. Granted, they still got an extra first round pick. If they trade back, depending if Trey Lance or one of those, or maybe Justin Fields, if one of them falls down, just because draft day is always fun with those random things that always kind of happen. So I don't know. We'll kind of see what happens.
It's going to be interesting. I think, again, I don't think the Dolphins had a bad offensive line, but again, if Penei Sewell can turn into Joe Thomas, who Joe Thomas came out and said, hey, he kind of reminds me of me. I think that's a pretty solid spot to start.
That's a good endorsement.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you get a really good left tackle that can be there for 10 years. That's a solid consolation prize.
Low key, maybe like a side thing. Joe Thomas didn't love football enough to watch the NFL draft the year that he was selected. He went fishing on a lake with his dad instead, so he doesn't love football enough. So I think Penei Sewell's gonna be better than Joe Thomas because he loves football more.
All right, in that case, I would definitely take Penei Sewell if I was the Dolphins. Then it could definitely be worse than that. So that was just a little bit of housekeeping. One other thing, I started reading some stuff. You guys denied it a little bit. Caleb Farley He's had a couple back surgeries recently. He's not looking so hot. He was the last pick before we cut off. He was 16 to the Cardinals before we cut off that first half of the draft. Potential he might fall, but we're just going to leave everything the way it is. Just to recap, Jags take Trevor Lawrence. Jets take Zach Wilson. San Francisco takes Justin Fields. Denver trades up to take Trey Lance. Cincinnati, Jamar Chase. Miami does get Kyle Pitts in this version. If Trey Lance does go in the top 4, I think it makes sense. Detroit takes Jalen Waddle. Carolina takes Penei Sewell. Atlanta, trading back with Denver, takes Micah Parsons. Dallas takes Patrick Surtain, however you want to say it. Devonte Smith goes to the Giants. The Eagles take JC Horn out of South Carolina. I saw a tweet on him, and it just showed like the receivers he went up against and what he did to them. Shut everybody down. It was actually really incredible. He's
way too grabby. Like he has issues with like constantly. It's like he's going to get flagged a lot in the NFL if he doesn't get a good defensive backs coach.
College football. The Chargers take Rashawn Slater at 13. Minnesota takes Kwity Paye at 14. 15. Mac Jones, of course, goes to New England. And as I said, Arizona takes Caleb Farley with 16. 17th overall pick. The Las Vegas Raiders take Christian Dawson, offensive tackle. I kind of read that one quick. Offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Justin, tell me about this kid out of Virginia Tech.
Yeah, he's actually just like a great story. I think he was the 171st offensive tackle prospect in the nation when he was coming out. So it was pretty cool that like his only D1 offer was from Virginia Tech. He goes there and he starts immediately as a freshman. So clearly like the entire country just like missed on that one. He was just like one of these guys that just like, I want to say it came out of nowhere, but clearly like he had the talent. It just wasn't perceived like that when he was coming out of high school. Played for 3 straight years, was injured for a little bit his freshman year. But I mean, as an 18-year-old kid going up against like 22-year-old men, like that's going to kind of happen. He's scheme versatile. Like he could play left tackle, he could play right tackle, he could play a little bit of guard too. You can obviously move him around, especially for what the Raiders have done with that offensive line. Like you get rid of Gabe Jackson, you get rid of Roddy Hudson. It's just so much. Yeah, it's just like, what do you like? The strength of the team is the offensive line. The reason that Derek Carr was kind of looking like a competent quarterback was because he had so much time to block. There were like a good amount of running lanes. I mean, Josh Jacobs kind of looked like crap.
Yeah, but I read that they had the worst pressure rate last year, and they were paying, and they had the like highest salary committed to offensive linemen. So it just made sense if you're not getting a return on your investment, you got to cut some guys. But they really went like kind of overboard.
Yeah,
I thought
they
with
cut
who
everybody.
they decided to cut.
But the Trent Brown thing made sense because he played 16 games of 32 games. So he played 1 full season of the 2 full years he was there. He was given that huge contract coming from the Patriots. And I was listening to a Raiders podcast today about like what they were doing in the offensive line last year. Gabe Jackson didn't play well in 2019. They actually thought they were going to cut him in 2019, but they ended up sticking with him another year. The Rodney Hudson one was a little bit of a surprise because he's still playing at a high level, and that's why they got a 3rd round pick from the Seahawks, who now only have 3 freaking picks. And Trent Brown just wasn't good enough. Like he just kept having these injuries, and it sounded like he needs a coach that's more on top of him, more than John Gruden, which I thought that Gruden was one of the ones, like one of those coaches that was like way more on top of you than others. But apparently he needs to only play with the Patriots.
Yeah, it's a weird. I mean, you usually don't decimate your entire offensive line like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just usually goes a little overboard. One interesting bet that I found: Raiders first pick offense plus 140. Considering what they did with their offensive line and where they sit in the draft, pretty comfortable with that one. I don't know why it was so heavy on the odds there, but
because their defense is so bad. But just like the way the board fell to them, like this is kind of the pick that makes the most sense because you can, I mean, instantly improve what was your one strength, and then that way you can kind of just like keep going without missing a beat. Hopefully.
On keeping on. Let's move on to the next pick. We have the Miami Dolphins. This is their pick, if I'm not mistaken. 18 overall. They take Gregory Rousseau.
Yeah.
Nice. Edge out of thank you, buddy. Edge out of Miami. So staying in the state, staying in the city, which is kind of cool, I guess. Shout out Miami to Miami. Derek, tell me a little bit about Gregory Rousseau out of Miami.
We have our first opt out of the evening. He was one of the first guys to opt out, which kind of bummed a lot of people out because he had, I think, 15 and a half sacks as a redshirt freshman, which is an insane amount for anybody to have, let alone, someone playing in their first full year. But I think, when people saw him, they're like, okay, he's not like the greatest athlete and he doesn't have amazing technique and he had a lot of coverage sacks and shit like that. So, people wanted to see a strong second year out of him, to see what he can do. He decided not to play. So there's a bit of a risk on him, but I think he's just a really solid player. He's probably, again, not the best pure edge rusher, but he does have a lot of talent. And I think, he's still young. He's only like 20 years old, 21 years old. Brian Flores is actually turning out to be a really good coach for the Dolphins, defensive guy. I think, he'll figure out ways to get him in good positions to succeed.
That's what you got to do, right? I mean, whether it's just coming down, obviously you're not taking the 18th pick to just be a third down lineman, right? But like, if that's what he is initially, and then kind of grows into a real role,
he's actually probably better at setting the run at this point than he is as a pass rusher.
Which is crazy considering he was a high school wide receiver.
Yeah, he just got massive.
He just like grew and just kept growing into his body.
Yeah,
so like
he's not the craziest athlete, but he's got like the perfect like frame, for what a edge rusher wants. Like 6'5", 6'6", with the really long arms too. So it's I don't know. I think I saw, because now they're losing Kyle Van Noy and Shaq Lawson, who I think combined for like 11 of their 40 sacks last year. You need someone else in there. The value's right, so go for it.
Yeah, there's no one really that high. Again, with the Dolphins having that 6th pick, there's nobody really that high that they would want to. It kind of sounds like they're almost wishing that they just stayed at 12, because taking Michael Parsons at 12 makes more sense if, Pitts or Chase does not fall to them, which I'm kind of hoping Pitts does, because that Pitts over 5.5. I'm kind of hoping those 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4, and then it goes Chase from there. So
that's going to be close.
It's going to be tight, but that's why we do it, man. That is why we do it. So it should be a fun one. Moving on, 19 overall, the Washington Football Club takes Jamin. Okay. Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. Of course, the legacy of Kentucky linebackers coming through finally in the draft. Justin, tell me a little bit about this kid and why you think you should go to the what the fucks.
So 6'4", 225 pounds. And it's funny, like when you're watching him, I kind of see a lot of like Darius Leonard, which as one of like my favorite linebackers, he's like this like quick twitched, undersized linebacker, flies over the field, plays with a disregard for his body. I just love players like that. And it's funny, like looking at Washington's defense, like this defense is built. Like they have great edge rushers. They have great D-line, secondary. And then they have just John Bostic in the middle. Like Cole Holcomb's a decent player. And then Kaliki Hudson is kind of okay. So like they really do need like a will linebacker and a Sam linebacker. And get a Jamin Davis at this point would be just like, I don't want to say it's a steal, but this is probably like the right spot for him. Just as a guy that you can just put him into this defense and he'll just make plays immediately.
It could be fun. I mean, that Washington football team defense is already insane. I mean, that front 4, you have Chase Young, you have Montez Sweat up there. I'm sure there's a couple guys that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Thank you.
Kerrigan's still there.
Like
Deron Payne.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And they also signed William Jackson as a corner from Cincinnati.
I was going to say, yeah.
So also
didn't they sign 2 corners? I thought they signed a second corner. Maybe that could be me. But they signed him. They had one of the Fullers too, right?
Kendall Fuller, Landon Collins, Cameron Curl played great as a safety last year. They just got
that defense is going to be sick.
Yeah,
especially with Jamin. What's his last name? Davis. Yeah, because he's someone who I only just heard about like in the past 3 weeks. Like I hadn't like heard anything until I listened to one of Daniel Jeremiah's podcasts, and they were saying like this kid flies around. He's probably the second most athletic linebacker behind Micah Parsons. I mean, if you add him to this defense, like someone who can make plays at the line of scrimmage, do everything that he can do, cover, rush the passer, it just adds another weapon to like an already sick defense.
It's just that he has 1 year of starting experience. So that's why a lot of teams haven't looked at him as
but I would trust someone. I would trust a coach like Ron Rivera to
and Jack Del Rio.
Exactly.
Teach a
linebacker how to play.
Teach a linebacker how to play, boy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, last linebacker out of Kentucky was the other Josh Allen. pretty damn good.
Well, defensive
Edge,
end,
whatever.
yeah, tomatoes, potatoes. It's okay.
Tomatoes and potato salad. All right, let's move on. We're here to have fun, people. We promise you that. Number 20 overall, Chicago Bears. Don't take Kyle Trask, which again, I'm really hoping I took the under on Kyle Trask, but it's like 75 or whatever. But Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. I watch a lot of the SEC. I watch a lot of Florida, obviously, with Nick and Justin. Kadarius Toney looks incredible. He also looks way too small to play in the NFL, and I'm pretty sure they already have Darnell Mooney, and maybe they got rid of Anthony Miller. Why do they need a third wide receiver that essentially does the same thing? Derek?
I don't know. Why not?
Okay, all right. Matt Nagy for you, ladies and gentlemen.
No, because I think that, he just makes sense. They need more firepower. I just don't think anybody's really proven too much on that team other than Allen Robinson. And didn't he just sign for a 1 year
franchise tag?
Franchise tag, but he hasn't. I don't think he's signed it yet.
Yeah, so he wants to leave too.
Yeah, it's really likely that even if he does sign, he's not going to be there long term. So I think you want to add some more weapons. They're a pretty complete team, like as it is. I mean, the one thing that they're missing is a quarterback. And that's what, but I mean, what you can do? Kyle Trask isn't going to go here. Davis Mills, I wouldn't take first round. So, I mean, I think you just continue to load up on the offense, which has the potential to, be a little depleted with their contract situations over the next couple of years and people wanting to leave. So, there's not much you can do. Maybe you take a quarterback in the third round, second round, something like that. There's just no one worth taking here. So, you're pretty solid at a lot of other phases of your offense and defense. So, I don't know, just add a playmaker. There's no pick that's really right here. Yeah. There's no pick that's really right here. Like, no pick is really going to excite this fan base because they're going to be stuck next year with fucking Andy Dalton. So,
and Nick Foles. Don't forget about Nick Foles.
So, it's not like there's some quarterback here that they can take where it's a slam dunk pick. They're kind of in a weird situation. It's like purgatory. They're 20th. They can't move up. Maybe there's someone who moves up for Mac Jones, but we didn't.
Maybe to 11 with the Giants.
Possibly. That could make a lot of sense.
That would be fun, and hopefully Galvin would fleece the hell out of him. But
yeah,
I don't know. Watching him with the ball in his hands is insane. It is absolutely so much fun. Justin, you looked like you were going to argue the point against me on why they need a third wide receiver. That essentially does the same thing.
Because they need as many quick threats as possible to just get the ball in their hands and then just go.
Plays.
Yeah, because Andy Dalton's not going to throw the wide receiver open.
Right.
Like, the only person, like Allen Robinson, can kind of do his own thing. He's going to be the number one. He'll get the majority of the looks. But when you have like the combination of Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller, and Kadarius Toney, like, you're going to have a lot of these gadget players that are flying over the field. And Kadarius Toney, he's going to help in the return game. He rarely drops the ball. And he's like his early acceleration is incredible. Like, he's going to blow people off the line. He's going to be wide open, and that's going to be how Andy Dalton can kind of move the ball down the field, is just by finding wide open wide receivers.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, shout out to any Bears fans out there. That's really all I got. Like, good luck. I don't know. I don't feel bad. I really don't feel bad. But like, it just
if I could give you Rex Grossman again, I would.
I think they'd rather have the dead body of Jim McMahon.
What about Kyle Orr? I don't think Jim McMahon's
He's not.
dead.
He's definitely not. No,
cool.
I met him a couple years ago. He's totally fine.
I don't know if he's fine, but definitely don't think he's dead. What if we gave them Rex Grossman? No, not Rex Grossman. Kyle Orton. How about that? Think they take it?
Yeah, probably. Over Andy Dalton right now?
No, take Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Anyway. Mainly because I could see them maneuvering their way into like the end of the first, early second, and just drafting Davis Mills.
Perfect. I took over 5.5 on the quarterbacks too.
That would be the last one.
Plus 400. So let's ride. Can't wait. It's going to be a fun night. Moving on. Number 21, Indianapolis takes Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle out of Texas. I've seen his name come up a lot. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more offensive tackles and offensive linemen in this part of the draft. I mean, I see it right now, but also I think that's where we've been seeing through many different.
The inside scoop.
Yeah, I know, guys. Believe me, I know. Justin,
this mock's 100% correct, just so you guys know. Like, just bet everything on what we say.
I have been, and I hope it really works out. Justin, in divisional foe with the Indianapolis Colts, they They lost a couple offensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken, this year. So this pick makes sense. Also think it's funny. They had a really great offensive line. They lose some offensive linemen. Now they get a quarterback who's terrified of really just anything, anybody. So definitely have to protect him and Carson Wentz. Talk to me a little bit about Sam. Oh, also first, is Texas back?
No.
Okay, good answer. Anyway,
if Urban went to Texas, then they still would not be back. So
no, I actually think Sark's going to do a good job there. No. I think if he honestly has his like personal life in hand, he's already recruiting really well there.
Under 4.5 years, Sark is the offensive coordinator at Alabama.
Until he's there? Until he goes back?
Until he goes back for the third time. I'm taking the under.
Does he have like his 3-year chip?
What?
Because he was an alcoholic.
Oh, I don't want to answer that part of the question. Anyway, Justin, talk to me. No. Justin, talk to me about this offensive tackle out of Texas.
Sure. I mean, prototypical size, 6'6", 315. He's a 3-year starter at Texas. Moves well for his size, but he was like a very especially for someone who had been starting at like a pretty big program with very good coaches around him for 3 straight years. It just didn't seem like he really developed well enough to like take on more complex blocking schemes. Like it was constantly just like these wall off blocks. So basically it's like you're just turning one way, turning another, you're just sealing off and you're just making a wall. So that way the running back can do his thing or the quarterback can just just drop back and like he know that Cosmi's taking care of that one guy. So I'm not sure like what happens once defensive coordinators start throwing like more complex schemes and stunts and stuff and just like finding different ways to switch to defensive linemen at the same time right off the snap of the ball. Then what happens to Cosmi? Does he freak out or does he just I don't know. I would assume he seems smart enough that he can kind of figure it out, but it was just like one of those weird things. Like, how come he's only doing like this one move, just like constantly, he's just like walling off blocks? I just didn't get it. But you know what? He's got the size. And I guess we'll kind of see from there.
I mean, they need the offensive line help. Who did they lose?
Anthony Costanzo.
Okay, so really great. Really great.
Yeah, really good.
Tackle
played there like 9 years.
Yeah, so shout out Carson Wentz for that one. All right, moving on. Another divisional foe to the Jags. Derek gets this pick, though. The Tennessee Titans take Jalen Phillips, edge rusher, out of Miami. So that's our second edge rusher out of Miami. I think there's another one that's going to go next round, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Quincy Roche will go like second, maybe third. Yeah, somewhere around there.
I've been doing a lot of mock drafts recently, so I see his name come up a lot. Derek, this is your second. You must have watched a lot of Miami tape. Talk to me a little bit about Jalen Phillips.
He's actually probably a better prospect overall than Rousseau is, but the big thing is that he comes with a really fucked medical history. He was actually, according to 24/7, the #1 overall prospect. I think their composite, he was like 7th, but he was a really highly recruited player. Went to UCLA, but he just had like 3 or 4 just brutal concussions that forced him to medically retire. And, he never really got his career off the ground. I guess after like a year and a half off, he decided he was like, feeling okay and up to the challenge. So he was able to transfer to Miami. And this past year was, I think, his only year that he actually got to play because of, the transfer and rules and all of that. And he had like 9.5 or 10 sacks and, just really showed everything he's capable of doing. If he didn't have the medical issues, he'd probably be like a top 5 pick. Whoa. Like he has that athletic profile. Like he is explosive. He's lengthy. He's violent with his hands. Like he knows how to get after the quarterback. He makes plays on running backs behind the line of scrimmage. So, getting a talent like that at 22 is unbelievable. But you just have to understand, he's maybe like 1 or 2 hits away from having to like retire for good.
Yeah.
So there's that risk with it. I'm sure he's off a few teams' boards because of his medical history, but like at 22 with just that 1 year under his belt, I think he could really be a monster.
Yeah, and a team like the Titans who have had no pass rush, it feels like, for the last 5 years. They need anything at this point.
They had 21 sacks last year.
Yeah,
in 16,
that's
16 games. That's
pitiful. Their starting defensive end right now is Danico Autry.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who that
is. Exactly.
Oh, yikes.
But they did sign Bud Dupree. Like that was they were big. They were big.
If he's healthy, that's a pretty solid signing.
If he's healthy, and like he tore his ACL like when December.
That game against the Ravens, that Thanksgiving game that ended up being like that next Wednesday.
So it was. I think it was December then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it might have been.
But the thing with Jaden Phillips is, if you want to watch one game, watch the Virginia Tech game. He had like 2.5 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss, and like some of it was against Christian Darius.
Dawson.
But yeah, you see the talent there. The question is he healthy?
Yeah.
And why did he medically retire? Like, was it the doctors at UCLA that told him like, hey, if you keep doing this, you're going to have brain damage going later? So like you see things like that all the time that kind of come up, and you just want to kind of avoid those if you can.
Yeah, they don't love football at UCLA like they do at Miami, so it's not too surprising. All right, let's move on. The Jets via Seattle. This was one of the first round picks for safety. By the way. Yeah. Who was great. I mean, he was fun. Terrible in coverage, but man, he is just a freak when you watch. Yeah, exactly, though. So he's not really as much as you want to call him a safety, he's like kind of like
he's a will linebacker.
Yeah, you just put him on the field and watch him do stuff, and it is a lot of fun. But the Jets, they couldn't really use a safety when they were as bad as they were last year, so they said, screw it. Let's get a first and a third, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to the Seahawks. So the Jets take Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive tackle guard out of USC. Justin, talk to me a little bit about this guy.
Yep. Extremely versatile tackle / guard. He played left tackle this past season. He played very well at guard in 2019. So that's kind of why a lot of teams are projecting him to play guard. He's going to fit more in like zone blocking schemes, which for like the Kyle Shanahan, Mike LaFleur zone blocking scheme fits. Like his is like a perfect, like one of those prospect fits that will just kind of go down, just like makes a lot of sense. He's got shorter arms, so that's why a lot of teams are kind of staying away from him at tackle. Plus the Jets, I mean, they have Mekhi Becton, like they have the left side of the line just kind of locked down. So why not just like plug in a guy right next to him? Alex Lewis is kind of an okay guard. You can either move him over to right if you don't like Van Roten over there. Connor McGovern plays pretty well at center, and then George Fant is kind of okay. So like they're just going to try and find different ways to keep building up this offensive line. And then probably early in the second round, I could definitely see them going like Travis Etienne, adding a little bit more like explosiveness to the team. And then all of a sudden, like the Jets don't look as terrible because like Salah will get the defense right. It's just a matter of, can you put enough around Zach Wilson to not let him just get completely hammered every single week?
Yeah, you can't make the same mistake with two quarterbacks.
Yeah,
in a row.
To back. Yeah, right back to back. It's not a good look, but it is the Jets, so they'd be the one team I would assume it would happen to. No, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, they need offensive help again if they're taking a quarterback with their first overall pick, second overall pick in the draft first for them. Definitely going to need to do something with it when they do get him again. I don't understand why Zach Wilson is the consensus number 2, but whatever. Nothing I can do better now. Moving on, Pittsburgh at 24 takes Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. They lost Villanueva. He hasn't resigned, right?
No, he visited the Ravens today, though. I think.
Yeah, I think he's going to Baltimore.
That would be pretty awesome. And then they also both the Pounceys retired, if I'm not mistaken, right? So one of the Pounceys, was on Pittsburgh. So they lose 2/5 of their offensive line. Not a great spot. They were also really bad in run blocking last year. Like I don't know, it wasn't great.
It's because Pouncey was bad, even though they voted him to the Pro Bowl. I think PFF rated him as like the worst or the second to worst center in all of the NFL.
Not a good place to be. So I guess Derek, talk to me. Pittsburgh taking offensive lineman kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying with that, and I think I also saw that Roethlisberger had the quickest snap to release of any quarterback last year, just because he was getting pummeled. You know, Villanueva was actually a pretty good tackle, so losing him, one of the only stable linemen for them, that sucks. So they got to do something about that because they re-signed Roethlisberger. They clearly think that they can get like a couple more seasons out of him to try and contend for a Super Bowl. But it's not going to happen if they don't fix their offensive line. Jenkins is a good prospect. He might end up being like a really good right tackle as opposed to a pure left tackle. He's a nasty run blocker, which would be perfect because the Steelers can't run the ball for shit. And he shows good pass protection. He's still got to be, I think he's got to get a little quicker and just continue to improve his technique. But he's kind of that next tier of offensive linemen, I think, that you see, especially at tackle. There's a couple other guys, but I think Jenkins is the best out of them. And Pittsburgh, they got to keep Ben upright if they want to contend, if they want to make use of the short window.
Yeah, I mean, they have all those wide receivers, but as we were talking about in the first show with the Bengals, who cares who your wide receivers are if you can't throw to anybody? So I don't really understand why that makes sense. So definitely does, as you said, like they were so bad at running the ball last year. I mean, James Conner,
I think they
is
averaged like
perpetually
3.1
hurt.
yards a carry. That's like
Benny
that's
Snell
really
isn't
bad.
good. Yeah, like they didn't really have anybody. So I know they're in play for a running back at some point during the draft. I'm really grateful that you didn't say here at 24 because I took the under one running back in the first round. So
well, Justin and I, when we were working on these, we actually did toy with the idea, I think, of like Najee Harris, because he's like the most complete guy. He can probably come in and really be like a bell cow for them. He creates his own yards. He can, catch the ball out of the backfield. He would make a lot of sense for them, but like in the first round, it just is too much, especially when you can get, either a really good or possibly pretty good tackle with Tevin Jenkins. I don't know.
Again,
I'm kind of over the idea of drafting running backs in the first round.
What about number 2 overall? Justin, what do you got?
Yeah, so the smart play here would be to draft the offensive line, like go right tackle, left tackle, because Jenkins did play a little bit of left, a little bit of right tackle, and then he also played a little bit of right guard too. So like you can really move him around to kind of just like wherever it sees fit, whatever kind of creates the best offensive line. But the most common rumor right now is Najee Harris at 24 the Steelers. Like it's almost a lock for like it's like Trevor Lawrence 1 to the Jaguars, Zach Wilson 2 to the Jets, and then Najee Harris 24 the Steelers. It's like lock it in. So like unless they're trying to say this to like try and kind of scare the Dolphins into taking a running back in the first round. And that way another offensive lineman or a cornerback or one of like the other like holes that this defense kind of needs falls to them. So I don't know. The smart play would to take the offensive lineman, then take the running back, take Devonte Williams at the end of the second round. But I don't know. The Steelers always seem to kind of just make it work. Like for as long as I've been alive, like Mike Tomlin's been there for 13 years. It does not feel like it's been 13 years, but he's never had a losing record. So clearly they've been doing something right.
Remember when he almost tripped Jacoby Jones? That was funny.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Watching the big board.
Yeah, right. I didn't like, come on. What are we doing here? But yeah, again, like why take a running back if no one will block for him? So
take Tevin Jenkins in the first round, then take Chuba Hubbard in like the fourth.
Yep. Chuba in the fourth. Trey Sermon's going in the fourth. Michael Carter is going somewhere around there, third, fourth.
Third, yeah.
I mean, you're going to get like, yes, Najee Harris, I think, is one of the best running backs in the class. But like, as we've seen, you don't need to take a running back in the first round. Honestly, it's kind of better if you don't. You use them for 4 years and then you say, all right, we'll take another guy in the fourth round and see what happens. So it is something. Another odd pick, Jacksonville Jaguars take Trayvon Merrick. Yep. Merrick, I would have never guessed. Safety out of TCU. I've seen this in many places, not just our draft. Here, it seems like it's a very common pick. I mean, the Jags need everything. So is this just best player available?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like free safety.
Did I misspell it? That's funny.
Yeah, you misspelled it. I think Derek misspelled it when he sent it over to you, so it's totally it's fine.
Funny.
It's fine. Jacksonville, like the rosters finally starting to kind of to just come together. Like it's been a long time coming. They have some pass rushers they've drafted the last couple of years. They drafted CJ Henderson. They signed Shaq Griffin. Great. The secondary is kind of looking better, but you can't go into next season with Andrew Wingard as your free safety or Jared Wilson. Like they're just not good. So you insert Trayvon Merrick, who's going to come in. He's going to play the one high safety. He's just going to evaporate like all these teams that are just keep running deep on the Jaguars. Also, the Jaguars they are terrible at run block at stopping the run. So Merrick is great at flying up there and just taking out whatever wide receiver has the ball, tight end, running back. Like he has no regard for his body, which I love to see that in a safety. But he just needs to get a little bit better on wrapping up at times because he did kind of just like go in for the big hit and then sometimes it bounces off, which that it is going to happen in the NFL as these running backs are just bigger. But the Jaguars just desperately need a safety. And I mean, I do understand on the whole Pat Freiermuth at 25 to the Jaguars just because they have literally no tight ends in their team. They have their best tight end is a blocking tight end. So you can't go into 2021 with just that as your option, but they desperately need a safety. I mean, Derek and I, we even toyed the idea like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but they don't need a strong safety. Like the way that he kind of plays the game, like he's more of a strong safety than he has a linebacker. And even if he has a linebacker, like I don't know where you play him because Miles Jack already plays that position. So it's kind of like you're not really just going to take him. And then like I would rather have Zaven Collins as like a strong side linebacker that can come in and also like help blitz on pass rush downs.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence needs help, but he needs a defense to actually stop people too. You can't win. Don't expect to win shootouts, right? That's going to be a little difficult.
He also had like Merrick had 7 interceptions in his career at TCU, and he also dropped like 3 or 4 of them. So he very easily could have had 11. I don't think TCU even played all their games last year either. So clearly, like he could have had like he makes plays that will get the ball back, and for a young quarterback, that's going to be big.
Yeah, and an Urban coaches, or he was a corner. He coaches the defense's backs a bit of himself, and he's always liked the really rangy playmaking safeties. He's always kind of embraced the role of allowing them to play center field and really make a lot of plays. So, kind of makes a lot of sense for them.
I love it. I love it. It's going to be interesting. I think the Jags can definitely get a lot better this draft. So hopefully for Justin's sake. So we'll get 2 first-round picks by the Jags when we're in Cleveland for the draft. So that
4 in the top 45, which is pretty nuts.
We'll see what happens the second day. I can't make any promises. But the first day, I'm pretty sure we're going to see just about all of these. All right, moving on. Number 26, Cleveland. Derek lives in Cleveland. That's where the draft's going to be. It's just crazy. The first year of the draft. Is it the first year of the draft's in Cleveland? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's like,
I know, Justin.
It feels like the first time in forever that thanks, Derek. That the draft.
Sorry, I was writing it down.
It's okay. It's okay. That Cleveland does not get a top 10 pick. I just think it's funny that that's the year the draft goes to Cleveland. And their pick, number 26 overall, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Okay, out of linebacker / safety. Justin was just talking about him out of Notre Dame. Fun fact: Rudy was offsides. Derek, talk to me about this kid and why you think he's good for Cleveland.
Well, Rudy was offsides.
He was. It's like you saw the movie, right? Sam from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he was offsides. We all know.
And the kid from the Goonies. But anyway,
wait, that's the same kid.
Yeah, Sean Austin is like a fucking.
Yeah, he's the one that does the
truffle shuffle.
No, not at all the same. It's the main kid. I forget his name.
All right, never mind. I was like, there's no way that
Goonies after. I think it's on HBO Max. Anyway, having watched pretty much all the Cleveland games the past couple of years, their linebacking core hasn't been too great. I think they've got like Mac Wilson, who's okay, but they don't have any linebackers that can cover tight ends and running backs. And
they lost Schobert a couple years ago.
Yeah, they lost Schobert, which I was really surprised about because I thought he was perfect for that defense. But they let him go, and they just haven't been able to really find somebody who can cover. And they got gashed a lot running the ball last year, and I just feel like their linebackers were out of place a lot. So Owusu-Koramoah is a really instinctual linebacker. He's kind of small. I think he's only 6'2", like maybe 240, but he's got really good instincts with, being a little bit lighter. He's able to fly to the ball. They just need help at running, stopping the run. So there's no, they've made some good signings along the defense, getting Takk McKinnis and Jadeveon Clowney. Maybe they could go with a defensive tackle here, but linebacker was like really clearly a weakness for them last year. So, and Owusu-Koramoah could have, probably go 7-8 picks before this, Justin. I've seen him going as high as 11 to the Giants, actually.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a Broncos beat reporter came on. He was talking about them possibly going, what is that, at 12? Or
Nine.
Broncos? Nine.
No,
Yeah,
9.
9. Yeah, so he was even talking about them possibly going that high, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But he's a different kind of linebacker because he's one of those hybrids that's strong safety that covers really well. He's bigger like a linebacker. He's like 220 pounds, but he flies all over the field. So he does a lot of good things. He's a very he's going to be very hard to. He's so hard to mock because you don't know what teams will value that position highly. Like you're yeah.
It's a position that's becoming like more and more popular in college football. I think you take out like the will linebacker and put these guys in their place, and they're supposed to be like a little bit smaller but faster and able to cover like the tight ends and the running backs.
Is this like a McKinney, like as Isaiah Simmons type of like position, not player but position?
Like Jabril Peppers, like what he did.
Okay, like tweener,
at Michigan, kind of like that.
Okay,
yeah. I say because Simmons was like 6'4". He's going to be a pretty good linebacker. He was just like one of those. He needed to add bulk to his body to really take on like NFL offensive linemen to be able to like blitz and do like the kind of things that he was doing when he was at Clemson.
Yeah, he was barely seen on the field last year.
Yeah, well, he finally started towards the end of the season. He was on the field more and more. So like, it was just one of those things where like rookies can't always come in and immediately start. They can't immediately make the impact that we all expect them to. But
he gave up like 2 80-yard touchdowns in his first game against the Cardinals.
Yeah, and then they just like immediately took him off the field. It was like no.
For the Niners.
Yeah, against the Niners.
Not great. But hey, it happens. What are you going to do? Moving on. Number 27, Baltimore Ravens take Terrace Marshall, the other wide receiver out of LSU. So again, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, all on the same team. I mean, you can even throw Thad Moss in there just because it's funny. All right. And that team was just, yep. And Clyde. Last time we were in Cleveland, we kept screaming his name. But that was a lot of fun. But Terrace Marshall, the third wide receiver of that trio, but didn't he have like 18 touchdown catches? Didn't he have like
13.
some absurd number? Yeah, 13 and however, what was like 15 games?
He averages a touchdown a game. I think he has 23 touchdowns in 23 or 24 games.
Yeah, that's just absolutely ballistic. So shout out the whoever the wide receiver coach was at LSU for recruiting him there.
Just say it was Joe Brady. Like,
yeah. Shout out Joe Brady.
It was all Joe Brady.
Shout out Joe Brady. All right, Justin, tell me why everybody knows it, but why does Baltimore need a wide receiver?
They need a different kind of wide receiver, and I understand like the way that they kind of put this roster together, the way they put this wide receiver core together. This team is built on a run heavy scheme, so they're gonna run the ball down your throat over and over again. They're gonna eventually take big shots down the field. Guess what? That hasn't really worked out the last year and a half. Like it's just not the kind of setup that Lamar Jackson needs. Like he needs a big body wide receiver. Like clearly he was looking towards Des Bryant like over and over again.
Yeah, it was bad.
Once Mark Andrews was taken away, it's like Hollywood Brown is only getting open deep. Like he's not coming over. He's not running like a 10-yard slant and like any kind of safety or linebacker is going to absolutely decapitate a guy who is 165 pounds. So give him somebody
165 pounds on a good day.
That's literally you just not as fast running across. And like
you're right. He's not as fast. He's not as fast as that. You're right. Good point.
But give him the 6'3", 200-pound wide receiver who's good in the red zone, runs pretty good routes, can run down the seam. They can line him up in the slot, line him up out wide. Like there's a lot of things that you kind of do with him that will just like help Lamar progress as a quarterback and as a passer of the football.
Yeah.
Hopefully, man. Like it's not last year was bad.
That's what they say. That's how you beat him is you have to force him to throw outside the numbers. Well, part of the reason for that is because they don't have anybody who's got any kind of height who can win outside the numbers. So Marshall makes a ton of sense as someone, they need someone else with some height outside of Mark Andrews for the red zone. You can't just keep throwing like 5-yard digs to Hollywood and hoping he can turn it upfield for 20 yards.
And they signed Sammy Watkins, which fine. Definitely another guy who's on like the back nine of his back one of his career. Like he's got maybe one or two good like kind of okay years, and like he's obviously constantly hurt. So
on 18.
They might be going to a playoff hole. So we'll see. We'll see what Greg Roman can kind of scheme up for this offense.
Shout out Greg Roman. I think it's like every 8 years, this dude is like talked about as like the smartest person in football. And then like a year later, they're like, wait, we figured it out. So bless you. But
thank you.
Bless you. Thank you. One fun bet I found, Ravens first pick to be offense plus 105. So it's It's
It's
under
because they don't have any edge rushers. So like
okay, but they also don't have any wide receivers.
Yeah, but they've invested in pass catchers. Like they've put money into Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown and Devin Duvernay and Sammy Watkins now. But wait, ready? Listen to
those don't alleviate any of the problems.
Sammy Watkins almost retired and went to Mars 2 years ago, guys. Like I'm not accepting that.
Okay, listen to their edge rushers right now. Like you can Calais Campbell, they're going to line him up inside. So he doesn't technically count as an edge rusher. It's Pernell McPhee, Jalen Ferguson, Aaron Adiye, and Tyus Bowser. So they don't have an edge rusher right now. Where
did Judon went to the Patriots?
Judon went to the Patriots. Yep.
Forgot about that one.
Jihad Ward went to the Jaguars. And I don't know. They just keep losing guys left and right. So like, I mean, Calais is big. Like you, as a Jaguars fan, I watched him.
They find ways to make guys work. I think that like they can find someone in the second round, maybe even double up, get like 2 guys with their first 4 picks, and they'll get fucking 6 sacks, 7 sacks in their rookie years.
Yeah. And then the Patriots will pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I also don't see in any of these picks coming up really an edge rusher of sorts. So maybe it's not even the position or the pick in the draft. It doesn't really seem like there's going to be too many worth taking at that spot. But if we move on to number 28, New Orleans, this was Derek's pick, the even picks. Rashad Bateman, another wide receiver. He's coming out of Minnesota. Didn't he opt in, and opt back out, if I'm not mistaken? Last year, so. He kind of flip flopped a little bit, but the year prior, he was, when they went and they were like good a little bit. He was absolutely electric to watch. Him and Tyler Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. They made a fun wide receiver duo for. Can't even tell you what their quarterback's name was, to be honest with you, but.
Tanner Morgan.
There we go. Slinging Tanner Morgan.
Our resident Big Ten fan.
Dude, he's the frozen tundra Connor Shaw.
Oh, gee. Well, in that case.
Well, is that a step up or a step down?
I don't know. Man. He's just colder. It sounds like
it's an equal analogy.
Future Viking.
Tanner Morgan. All right. Rashad Bateman. New Orleans, they have Mike Thomas. And that's it. So I guess this makes sense. They got Jameis Winston. I have $1 on Taysom Hill to win the MVP.
I have $3 on Jameis Winston. Wait, I have $3 on Jameis Winston to win MVP. It pays out like $125 to win MVP.
Whoa.
I'm in.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so in.
I like that one.
Watch him just throw for 45 touchdowns.
Right?
For Sean Payton.
On a $1.1 million deal. You love to see it.
And he hits like 38 interceptions, like something incredible.
You know, you got to do what you got to. Just make it 40-40. It's baseball, Susan. It's baseball. Derek, talk to me about Rashad Bateman and why you think New Orleans needs him over, I guess, really anything else.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of in a position now where they're like a lot of teams in purgatory. They don't really know what's going on with their quarterback situation until that unfolds. You don't really know, like, if you're a contender or not. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to build your roster. So, like, I don't know. I don't really think Jameis is the answer.
But Taysom Hill is, right?
No, I definitely don't think Taysom Hill is either. So, you know, they'll play one of them or probably both of them this year. But they just it was a problem that they had with Drew Brees, was that they could never get a good second receiver from Michael Thomas. You know, like they bracket Michael Thomas, you get double coverage on him. It's not impossible to shut him down. Very good receiver, but they've always needed somebody on the other side. Bateman was the best receiver in the Big Ten, like the last 2 years, I think, like better than Olave. He's got good size, so I think he's like 6'1.5", pretty big. A lot of people thought he didn't have great straight line speed, but he ran a 4.39. I think at his pro day
on 39-yard dashes, which is what all the teams were doing. It was really funny. But yeah, he's got better speed than what we thought.
His speed is in it's in like the low 4.4s probably, which I don't think he quite plays at that speed. But you saw against their bowl game against Auburn 2 years ago, he burned. I think it was Imad Abebe, who got drafted by the Dolphins in the first round last year. He had
for Auburn.
Yeah. When they played in the bowl game 2 years ago. I mean, he burned him. He was like 15 yards ahead of him. So he's got some good speed. He's a super reliable pass catcher. I don't think he had like hardly any drops. He's a very crisp route runner. He probably is the best pure route runner. He's really explosive.
Well, I would say Devonte Smith won, but yeah, I think Bateman's definitely two.
Add that second tier at least.
Since we didn't start from the beginning, I forgot we had talked about it. But yeah, Rashad Bateman is just a really good prospect. I've seen him going as high as I think the late teens. To get him at 28 sounds like a really good deal for them. And it would really, if they think that the quarterback might be on the roster, get him. It's the same thing like we talked about with Dimes. Get another good receiver and let them go out there and prove it.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, as you said, like there's Michael Thomas, and then there's really nothing. Like I think they got Troutman, some random tight end in like the 4th round last year or whatever. So we didn't see really him on the field at all.
They have little Jordan Humphrey though.
Hell yeah, he's
Texas,
in the league.
My man.
Let's go. Remember when he came out? He didn't even get drafted. That was so sad. Just for his name, he should have won it in the 7th round. But and he came out a year early, which shout out Tom Herman for really doing right by his players there. But it's just one of those things. I mean, like we saw it last year firsthand. Granted, turns out Michael Thomas he was injured the entire year last year, so it didn't help. And the year prior, when they still had nobody around him, dude goes out and breaks every record. So obviously he's incredible. We saw what Kamara can do out of the backfield. I think that's still going to be the same thing. I'm also kind of curious what it's like. How much was it not having a second wide receiver, and how much was it Drew Brees' new one?
That's what I was.
I think that's another that's potential.
One of the things that we've obviously seen this offseason is how no wide receivers want to go play for for Baltimore with Lamar Jackson because they're not going to get the stats that they really want to. So they're not going to hit those bonuses. They're not going to have good stats going into their next contract. And I think that's what a lot. I kind of think that's a part of it, what was going on with the Saints. That's why a lot of wide receivers didn't want to come down to New Orleans to play with Drew Brees, because they knew you can't be a deep threat because he can't hit you deep, and you can't be any kind of 15-yard post guy, 15-yard corner route guy. You're he's not going to hit those routes. That's why everyone keeps calling Michael Thomas slant boy, because that's the only thing that Drew Brees could throw. He could literally only throw 10-yard slants, and Michael Thomas might literally be one of the greatest slant wide receivers of all time. But I'm so curious to see what kind how much they open up the offense or the route tree for him, at least do some other things other than just slants.
Yeah, I have gotten good authority that Michael Thomas is actually a huge dickhead, so I don't feel bad for him.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So yeah, Derek, you went to Ohio State. I'm sure he said some stuff when he was there, but no, I mean it's a little through the grapevine, but I feel like I have it on pretty good authority that he's just just not a great person. So slant boy.
I remember it was it? It was after I gotta tell a story. It was after
let's sit back.
It was after the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, after Ohio State had just won. I think Eli Apple tweeted at Amari Cooper and was just like, "Hey man, good game," something like that. And Michael Thomas tweeted back at him, "Stop dick riding, motherfucker." I think he deleted it really quickly. I swear to God, he tweeted it out.
That is fantastic.
I thought it was gonna be a story involving you.
Oh no, it was just that. But I'm I don't know. I always thought after that, I saw it, and I was like, wow, that sucks. He is a total dickhead.
That is fantastic. Oh, I love it. Is Eli Apple even in the league anymore? He got signed by somebody, right? Cincinnati. He's been off the Saints for a while. Yeah, he's been off the Saints for a while. I think it's like a 1-year deal with Cincinnati. Anyway, shout out first round pick by the Giants, Eli Apple. Moving on. Green Bay, 29. Surprised this isn't a quarterback here. Surprised it's not a quarterback. Oh, I was. Green Bay takes Creed Humphrey, awesome name, center out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they usually have pretty solid offensive lines down there. Justin, talk to me a little bit about Creed. And why the Packers? Who'd they get? Bakhtiari? He was right tackle. Who's their center? Left tackle. Sorry, who's their center?
Corey Lindsley.
Who went to the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
No, they need somebody for Aaron Rodgers. So talk to me a little bit.
Yeah, so 6'4", 315-ish pounds. Who's a 3-year starter at Oklahoma on a consistently very good offensive team. He was a 2-year captain with a wrestling background, which is pretty interesting. So clearly, you love for offensive linemen that are coming out, you love to see that wrestling background because you know that it shows that they are able to use all parts of their bodies, all muscles that they have, so that way they can kind of get the best protection, pass protection, or run blocking scheme, whatever kind of run. The only thing is like he does have shorter arms and he has like kind of like average athleticism going right and left. But you know what? I'm sure. Oh, also wait, one other thing. He's a left-handed center, which I don't know if there's any other left-handed center in the NFL right now. But I'm very curious to kind of look that up and kind of pay more attention to that when I'm watching Red Zone.
When I'm watching Red Zone, because that's where I watch my best film is when I'm watching Red Zone.
I'm not going to Google if there's any left-handed centers in the NFL right now. Like I want to kind of
You should submit an article to PFF, like the effectiveness of left-handed centers versus right.
And they would definitely dock it down, just like how Tua is like the only lefty quarterback right now.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure they docked his grade.
It's a recessive gene, so that must mean he's an idiot. Anyway, I was going to use a different word, but I'm glad I didn't. Anyway.
He had 37 starts in college and 36 straight to end his career. So like he started one game, missed a game, and then started 36 straight games, which for an offensive lineman with the Packers, where they kind of have a little bit of an injury history for their offensive line because they're always constantly like shuffling people around. So like this is just like insert Creed Humphrey to replace Corey Linsley. And I think Derek and I, we were talking about possibly like Landon Dickerson going here too, but with him having like all those injuries coming from Florida State and then transferring to Alabama and then having another torn ACL, it's just kind of hard to just take a guy that with the offensive line that's already been hurt and then just let's put in a guy that's solid, like is just going to be there through and through.
Yeah, it is pretty difficult.
My issue is just like, as a policy, I don't take centers in the first round. I don't think it's like necessarily a position that you have to use a first round pick on center. I think that they still have some issues with pass rushing and they need another receiver. Yeah, corner too. They need another receiver.
Well, I would have. So if you didn't take Bateman the pick before, I would have slotted Bateman here.
But I think,
but the Packers don't take wide receivers in the first round, so like they're not going to take a wide receiver. It's just like who will they take?
The one mock that we had done and you gave them Rondale Moore. I thought that to me is like one that makes a lot of sense. Like in that offense with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that could really be the one piece to their offense that they need to get over the hump. They've always kind of lacked like that second option since really they won the Super Bowl. What was that, like now 10 years ago? Yeah. And Donald Driver, like they don't have that 1-2 punch.
And Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
Yes. Also,
that was so wait. That was so sad when he got hurt in the first half of the game. It was like the first quarter, like one of the first series he got hurt. Like he finally made it to the Super Bowl. It was everyone. That's all everyone was talking about was like Charles Woodson finally make it to the Super Bowl, and then he gets hurt right away, and they still win without him.
Didn't need him, so he's clearly overrated.
Yeah,
Hall of Famer Charles Woodson.
It's interesting though. I mean, I think you do make a good point, Derek. I mean, center is normally a position where you can. I mean, the Pounceys, right? I don't think either. I think whoever was from Pittsburgh, I remember was like third round or whatever. You just kind of like.
I thought it was earlier than that.
Well, maybe
the one that went to Pittsburgh was first round.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they were both first. Yeah, Marquise,
and then I forget.
Either way, unless you're going to be an all-timer at center. It might not be
it's just
completely necessary.
I don't think the value's there. I think that they would be, better served maybe with looking at a cornerback.
Mike was 15th overall. Marquise was 18th.
Okay, so
they were both first round. They were both first round.
I was extremely wrong. So
also coming out of like that Florida team, like it was absolutely stacked. Like there were so many first round picks. Like Tim Tebow somehow went in the first round.
No, well that was
different.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous.
That was different. They also won a playoff game.
Yeah. They did
with the Broncos.
He won more playoff games in his 1 year than Peyton Manning did in his first year. So I thought I used to make.
We also had the same amount of sacks as Jadeveon Clowney the last 2 years combined.
Hell yeah!
Who's we?
All three of
us.
All of us. Oh. Zero sacks from Clowney.
Great job. All right, and he's getting like 10, 12 million. So what did we do wrong, guys? What did we do wrong? All right, moving on. We have the 30th pick, so only a couple left after this. Buffalo, who was really good last year. Hopefully they're good again because, man, Bills Mafia is a blast. Take Greg Newsome, cornerback out of Northwestern. 2 Northwestern players going in the first round.
What a time to be alive.
Derek loves the Big Ten. Derek, talk to me about Greg Newsome. And I mean, they have Tre'Davious White down in Buffalo. They don't have anyone on the other side?
Not really. And that's why I think.
Yeah.
What's that?
Levi Wallace.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they need another corner opposite of Tre'Davious White. Like they clearly need one.
And Newsome has a lot of the measurables that you want to see. I think he's 6'1", 210, 215. He ran a high 4.3. He's got probably the most fluid hips out of any corner in the draft, which is really probably one of the 2 or 3 key traits that you want to see when you look at corners. So, Tre'Davious White is probably the best corner that like doesn't really get talked about all that much. Probably just because of the fact that he plays for Buffalo, but he's he really is a tremendous corner. You just don't have anybody on the other side. So Newsome can come in and he's not going to be tasked with guarding best receiver on the other team because White usually will shadow people. Newsome can come in, take the number 2 guy, and I think that he would really excel in that role because the only other thing that I can really think of for the Bills here would be a pass rusher. But at this point, there's nobody that I really like as much as Newsome, who I think in a couple of the mocks that Justin and I had done, we had him going as high as like the Jets at 23. Yeah, so he's a good value pick here because he can easily go, like almost 10 spots higher and fills a major position of need.
That's exactly what we need there. Cracking another one. Only a couple picks left, so that one's just for you, bud. But what about, did you guys think of wide receiver here? I mean, it was awesome when you give Josh Allen one wide receiver. How much fun would it be if you gave him one of the Moore brothers? That would be pretty cool.
I mean, it's something that they can use, but it's not necessarily the thing that's going to separate them. And I don't think that there's anybody out there right now that really fits the mold of what they need. Like, if you get Rondale Moore or Elijah Moore, they're slot receivers. You already have that with Cole Beasley, who actually played really, really well last year.
He was on Derek's fantasy team. That's why he knows.
Yeah. He thrived playing with Josh Allen. Allen makes good use of his tight ends. He finds them pretty timely. Stephon Diggs is one of the best 10 receivers in the league. I mean, he had a great year. I'd almost say running back might be a little bit more pressing for them, but
explosion. I think outside of Stephon Diggs, they just need someone else that like Rondale Moore. Yeah, he could slot in here, but because you already have Cole Beasley, it's like you kind of already just have like 2 guys playing the same position. When they don't want to run a lot of they want to run a lot of like 4 wide receiver sets, but they end up running 3 because Dawson Knox is a pretty good tight end. It's like you're just like taking off. I mean, they drafted Gabriel Davis in the 2nd round last year, so clearly they want to try and see what they have in him.
Davis played really well too.
Yeah, when he got on the field, he was looking pretty good. It's just, I mean, it all depends on Josh Allen's ascendance and how much more does he develop as like this potentially MVP like MVP
caliber
quarterback. Yeah.
It would be fun. Yeah. I would love to see that. That would be so cool. Just to see the Jets still suck, the Dolphins kind of just like stumble, and Josh Allen just keep doing his thing. That would be so much fun. Moving on, the Super Bowl losers, Kansas City Chiefs take Liam Echtenberg. Surprise offensive tackle. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but it sucked. I won a bunch of money, so it was cool, but that game sucked. So Liam Echtenberg, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Okay. Justin, talk to me. I know nothing about Liam Echtenberg, which might be a good thing, right? Maybe I don't want to know anything about an offensive tackle. That's usually when you hear their name least.
Yeah. So Liam Eichenberg can play left or right.
Eichenberg. Are you sure it's not Echtenberg? Eichenberg. Anyway, I only said it like 8 times.
Well, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't want to correct you while you're doing it because we probably should have told you before this.
Nah, it's fine.
Just like a little rundown. But
we do this for you, everybody. We do this for you.
This is Mike's learning too.
I think it is up to the host to be prepared, but
it's true. Yeah, no, 100%. I probably was for the last show. This one I definitely kind of mailed it in.
All right, so 6'6", 300-pound offensive tackle. Started multiple years because he was playing behind Mike McGlinchey. He was a pretty high-rated offensive tackle coming out of high school. I think he was like 8th overall, like 81st overall prospect coming out. And then sat behind McGlinchey, who obviously went first round to the Niners, I believe, when he came out. He's not the fastest or the most flexible. Like he probably projects better on the right side, but because of the needs that the Chiefs have, like you can't go into the season with Martinez Rankin as your left tackle or Lucas Niang as your left tackle. They re-signed Mike Remmers. Fine, you can slot him on the right. It's just like the rest of this offensive line. It just looks pretty sad. Like they signed Kyle Long, who he came out of retirement. Like great, cool. He put on a bunch of weight. Is he going to be in football shape? Like he already retired, so does he still have the love for the game? Did he just want to get out of Chicago? Which I mean, I don't.
I thought they signed somebody for like some insane amount of money.
Joe Tooney.
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah. Joe.
So he's a guard though, right?
He's gonna play guard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just like we saw how bad like their tackle situation was last year when both their tackles were hurt. Like in the Super Bowl, like Shaq Barrett and JPP just completely teed off on this team. Yeah. Like I mean, me and myself included, like we just went into it like, oh yeah, Andy Reid's just going to find different ways to scheme them away. But the problem is when you're constantly running 4 wide receiver sets and one of them is Travis Kelce, you're leaving your offensive tackles on an island. So what they should have done is they should have brought in another blocking tight end, whoever the Chiefs backup tight end is, and just or bring in a six offensive lineman, and then just that way you're constantly just like scheming them towards Shaq Barrett, towards JPP, depending on the pass play.
Yeah.
If only Andy Reid knew that.
I mean, I'm sure that's something they toss around, but I think they just went into it just like with so much confidence. Like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to it's just going to work out for him. He's going to find a way to make us just help us win this.
I mean, he had one loss in his last like 30 games at that point. Like it was some ridiculous number. But hey, here we are with the Kansas City Chiefs being the losers and Tom Brady and the Buccaneers winning. I kind of don't mind Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl because it makes Bill Belichick kind of look like an asshole, which makes me laugh. So Tom Brady, the Tampa Bradys take Christian Barmore, defensive tackle out of Alabama with the last pick of the first round. Derek, I heard his name a lot. Again, watch a lot of SEC because it's the only real conference, but also they said his name a lot in the playoff. And if I'm not mistaken, he might have wreaked some havoc against Justin Fields there in that national championship game. Talk to me a little bit about Christian because I've heard his name pretty much all year. This dude's been a beast.
Yeah, I think he was on the radar as somebody who had been a rotational player at Alabama the last couple of years, but this was the year he was expected to really take take his game to the next level. And he did for the most part. The one thing you don't see from him is the snap to snap consistency, being able to dominate. But, when he really is in a rhythm, he's a tremendous pass rusher from a 3 technique. He's a pretty solid run stuffer too, but, having somebody who can get after the passer from the interior is just so valuable. This is kind of just like a luxury pick. I mean, the Buccaneers are like really the most well-constructed team in the league. When
they're bringing back all 22 starters, right?
Yeah, and you look at just every position. I mean, holy shit, they have star power everywhere. Corners, linebacker.
Tristan Wirfs is still playing right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just insane. It's like, what else do you want? Maybe if they fall in love with an edge rusher, because you can never have too many of them. But who even start? It's Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea. So
and William Golston.
Yeah, but you've got Ndamukong Suh back on a 1-year deal. He's probably not going to be around long term. I think he's probably looking to just see, can we repeat? And maybe he rides off in the sunset or goes and gets a big payday with another team.
Vea broke his ankle last year. They lost.
Yeah, but he came back in the Super Bowl. Like
he did. No, he didn't. He was incredible. It's just obviously you can't. A broken ankle isn't like injury history, but it's one of those things. Like anything can happen at any point in a football game, and so.
But it's just I don't know like what else you can really do. I mean, they don't really maybe safety, but they don't need corner. They don't need linebacker. Their defensive line is set. Offensive line is good. There's not a quarterback worth taking to sit for a year or two behind Brady.
I don't think he would allow that to be.
Josh Josh Rosen's there. You're fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wide receiver,
no,
they're
he's not.
still.
No, he's not there anymore. Oh,
No,
I
they
think
cut-
he's on
they-
San
they-
Francisco.
Yeah,
practice
I
squad.
think they also just cut. They're going to cut him once they draft a new quarterback.
Derek and I
Okay.
wanted him so bad on
Oh,
the
I
no.
told you
Yeah,
guys.
wanted
I
him.
told you.
Dude, the Rosen one. Oh, those t-shirts would have been sweet, but oh well.
Nope.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that's I don't know, Justin, anything else about Barmore? I don't know.
Yeah,
Solid pick.
This is the Derek said it perfectly. This is just a luxury pick for them. This is just best player available. Like Barmore is going to find a way to go much higher than this because there's no other defensive tackles. Like him and
What
Levi
about a
on
running
Reese
back?
Enrique.
What about a running back here? Leonard Williams
Ronald
is-
Jones is.
Yeah, and playoff
He's
Lenny
okay.
is pretty good too. But the thing is, Bruce
Yeah.
Arians doesn't value running backs that highly. Like he doesn't value rookie running backs that highly. And they
Mhm.
drafted Keyshawn Vaughn in the 3rd round last year, so they're going to try and wait to see what they have in him as well. But with Barmore, if he plays 75% of the snaps, he'll be
Mhm.
great. But if he's playing 100% of the snaps, Derek said it best. Like it's snap to snap consistency. Like it's just not there. But when he's on and he's dominating all over the field.
I mean, he did wreak havoc against Ohio State's offensive line. He massacred Notre Dame's very good offensive line. He's not going to be asked to contribute in a major fashion early on just because there is some depth ahead of him. But, by the time his rookie contract is up and you're actually expecting him to be contributing, he should be a pretty damn good player. So, and Justin said it. I mean, I've seen his him mocked as high as like the mid teens. I think that kind of tapered off a little bit as the evaluation process went on. But
I want to say it was
for the
Raiders.
Yeah.
Raiders is like a spot that they've been constantly kind of like mocking him too, just because he fits like the multi-year big program that he went to, just because that's the only thing that Mike Mayock and John Gruden care about is, did you go to Clemson, Ohio State, or Alabama? Okay, we'll draft you.
Yeah, one of those main schools.
One of the 3 schools that are allowed to compete for the playoff, the national championship, the Invitational, the BCS Invitational, let's call it. But that was it. That is our 32 pick 1st round mock draft. We gave you everything. We gave you everyone, like one trade in there. I thought there'd be more, but just ended up being one trade. We will see more draft night because that is just the best. It is so much fun. So we're excited for that. Justin, where can everyone find you on the internet in case they have more questions about the draft?
Yeah, at JRazzle81.
Nice.
Everywhere.
Derek.
Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. That's everything.
Snapchat. Let's go. Derek, can't wait to visit you for the draft.
Is
and
Percy
hang
still in the
out
room,
with your
Derek?
dog?
Justin, say that again.
Is Percy still there in the room with you?
No, I closed the door because
Oh,
he would have
Percy.
just sat here and bothered me all night.
He just wants to be pet, but I'm very excited for it. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there. Please, if you haven't already, 5-star review to the podcast. If you're watching, like it, I guess. I don't know. That would be pretty sweet. You can find me at Michael Brazil 1. And I can't wait. So appreciate you guys. Thanks, buds.
Thanks for letting us do it, man.
Thanks, Mike.
I do
Love
this
you.
for fun. All right. Love you. Bye,
Cousin.
everybody.